Today we are going to be looking at the circle formulas. So our circle area is pi times radius squared. For circumference, we have two different options. We could do 2 times pi times radius. So pi times diameter, because what a diameter is 2 radii put together. So those are equivalent, that we could either just do the diameter times pi or twice of the radius times pi, because that's the same thing. So those are our circle formulas that are probably familiar to you. You've probably worked with those before, but just make sure that you do, in fact, know them so that on Monday when we come to our quiz that you have those memorized. Then two that you probably don't know yet are what we do when we have just a portion of a circle, and that's called a sector. So in our picture here, a sector is like taking a slice of pizza, just one chunk of it here. So in this picture, just the highlighted part would be our sector there. So if we look at the formula for area of a sector, it has the full area part in there. We've got that pi r squared, but then it has this extra thing of x over 360. What is 360 of a circle? The whole thing. And so then x is our portion. So what we're doing is let's take the whole area, pi r squared, and then multiply that by just the portion we want, which is the angle that we're given. That's what the x represents, is the angle we're given, divided by what the whole thing would be, which would be 360. Okay? So if you can recognize that, that makes it easier to remember, since you will need to know these formulas. Likewise with the arc length, we have that 2 pi r part there, but then it's saying let's just take a part of the circle, the x over 360, just a particular portion of it. Okay. Visually, if we're thinking about this as being like a slice of pizza, the area of the sector would be like the cheese. It's what it takes to fill in that section of the circle, and the arc length would be like the crust. It's that length of the portion of the circumference around the edge. Okay. Questions on the formulas? Okay, so let's go ahead and move forward in the notes to do some examples. So today's questions will come from 11.5 and 11.6. The first question says, find the circumference area. It's missing a word there. It actually wants us to find the circumference and the area. So we want to find our circumference and area, asked for two things in this question, of a circle with a radius of 1/2. Then it says, leave answers in terms of pi. What that means is our answer is going to have a pi in it. We're not going to hit the pi button on our calculator or do 3.14 or any other approximation of pi unless the directions for a problem specifically tell you to. Otherwise, you're just going to have a pi tagging along in all of your answers. So for circumference, our formula is 2 times pi times r. So in this question, if our radius is 1/2, 2 times pi times 1/2, we're just going to worry about the number parts. So 2 times 1/2 is 1, so I get 1 pi, or just pi. Okay, we're not going to do anything with the pi's. We're not going to say that it's 3.14. We're just going to let pi hang out in the questions. Then we were also asked for area in this one. So our area formula is pi radius squared. So if our radius is 1/2, we're going to have pi 1/2 squared. What does squaring mean?
1/2 times 1/2.
Multiply by itself. So 1/2 times 1/2, which will be 1/4. So 1/4 times pi. And again, we're just going to let that pi just hang out and tag along through the whole problem. Questions? Okay, the next one says, find the radius and area. So two things to find again. And we're given the circumference on this one. So circumference is 20 pi, and our formula for circumference is 2 times pi times r. So how could I solve that equation to find what r is then?
Two pi r.
20 pi equals 2 pi r. And our circumference equation is 2 pi r. So what can I do to divide both sides by 2 pi? The 2's cancel, the pi's cancel, so on the one side I'm just left with r. On the other side the pi's cancel. 20 over 2 is 10. So I get 10 is equal to r. That's the first thing we were asked to find, but we were also asked to find our area. So now area is equal to pi times the radius squared, and our radius we just found was 10. 10 squared is 100, so we get 100 pi, and that pi just tags along. We don't plug anything in for it. Questions? The next one says find the circumference and the area, so two things to find again, of a circle with diameter 24. We can work with diameter for circumference. We had a circumference formula that just said pi times diameter, but since we're also asked to find the area, and area has to use radius, we'll just work with everything with radius. So if our diameter is 24, what is our radius? 12. So then circumference is times pi times radius gives us 24 pi. Or we could think of that formula as being pi times diameter, and then we would just have that 24 pi right away there. Then area is equal to pi times radius squared. And 12 squared is 144, and then that pi is just going to tag right along. Questions on that? All right, so section 11.5 is going to be working with circles, circumference, and area. 11.6 is going to be working with the portions of circles, or the sectors of the circles. So that's what our last couple examples are about. So number 4, it says find the arc length and the area. So I have two things to find of a sector, and we're given our angle of 45 and radius of 4. So our arc length formula was that x over 360, that we're taking a portion of our circle, 360 being the whole circle, x being some portion of it, and multiplying by the regular length formula, which is 2 pi r. 2 pi r would give us the full distance around the circle, and for arc length we're looking for just a portion of the distance around the circle. So we're going to plug in what we know here. X is our angle, which is 45. 2 pi, and our radius is 4. To calculate that, you would do the 45 times the 2 and times the 4, everything that's on the top of a fraction in a sense. And if it's not in a fraction, it's on the top of a fraction because it's over 1. So we would multiply that 45 times the 2 and times the 4, and then divide by the 360. And what do we get when we do that? (45 times 2 times 4 divided by 360). It's 1. So our answer is 1 pi, or just pi. For the second part of the question, it asks for the area. Our area of a sector formula is x over 360, a portion of the circle, times pi r squared, the whole circle. So again, our angle is 45. And our radius is 4. So in this one, again, we do everything that's multiplied first and then divide by the bottom. So 45 times 4 squared divided by 360. And what do we get? 2. And then the pi just tags along. A visual for what we're doing on this is we're saying, let's say I have a circle that has a radius of 4, but I'm just working with a 45-degree section of it. The area is how much it would take to fill in just that section of the circle, and the arc length is how much string would it take to trace out just that part of the edge of the circle instead of the whole edge of the circle. Okay, questions? One more. We want to find the radius this time, and we're given the area. So we're going to work with that same area formula as the last problem. But this time we know the area is 10 pi. We know our angle is 100, but we don't know our radius. Okay, so we're doing that same area formula as the last question. But this time we know the area and we're trying to find the radius. So I've got to get r alone. What could I do first to try to get r alone?
Wait, 5.
I could divide by a pi. If I divide both sides of the equation by a pi, they'll just wipe each other out. Okay, so that's one less thing that's over there with r. How do I get rid of that 100 over 360? I could multiply by the reciprocal. So I could multiply by 360 over 100, which is the same thing as dividing by 100 over 360, but dividing by fractions is kind of messy to do. So we'll multiply by the reciprocal, which will cancel all out. So over on that one side, all I'm left with is the r squared. And then on the other side, we do the arithmetic of the 360 times 10 and divide by 100. And what does that leave us with? 36. So if 36 is equal to our radius squared, our radius is 6. Questions? All right, so your homework tonight is from 11.5 and 11.6. Tomorrow we will review all of this area stuff, and Monday will be your quiz. That means your formulas all need to be memorized by Monday.